Well, hi folks, Friday night, time for our devotion. Ron here. From time to time, we need to ground ourselves, remind ourselves of the gospel. We do it periodically, and we must. As I recognize, though most of the time the people who watch these, and there's only a few of us, are going to be saved, periodically someone who is lost will watch and send a note, or sometimes they'll write a note and leave it, and it's not always the nicest note, and sometimes it is, and I always appreciate being able to hear from them. But the gospel is the very ground basic understanding that we have with God. We start out the Bible with, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God. That's the explanation. God has always been there. And we know that by chapter 3, we fall into sin. That's the Garden of Eden. And mankind has been sinning ever since. And we can call that all types of words if we want. We're not perfect. We do things wrong. But we tend to lighten the aspect of what that sin is. Sin is anything that is against the holiness or the righteousness of God. And sin, to be clear, is the thing that separates us from God. And so God has a place for all eternity to be. And we have a place for all eternity to be. It'll be one of two places, heaven or hell. Now, if God is a place where only righteousness can be, and we have a problem with not being righteous or being sinful, we can see the problem. That means we're not going to be with Him for all eternity. We would be somewhere else, and describe that as hell in the scriptures, a place of torment, wailing, gnashing of teeth. No good. And so the gospel is very important. The gospel is what brings us back into fellowship with God so that we can be with Him for all eternity. And I'm just going to turn to two passages. I've talked to you before about them. John 3:16, for God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him would not perish, but have everlasting life. Perish is that idea of dying without God for all eternity, hell. That verse tells us that there is a belief, a process of faith in Jesus Christ that'll make it so we can be in heaven for all eternity. Let me remind you of Ephesians 2:8 and 9. For by grace are you saved through faith, that not of yourselves, the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. The gospel that God gives, that salvation, is a gift from Him. It's not something we can work for. It's not something we can earn. Now, that means we can't earn our way to heaven. We can't be good enough. We can't be nice enough. We can't spend enough. We can't compare ourselves to other things and say, compared to that person, I should go to heaven. God doesn't do it that way. He provides the way. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. There is one path. People say all the time, there's many ways to God. Jesus said there is only one way. God in Ephesians says He provides the way. By grace are you saved through faith. Faith in what? Jesus. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And so the gospel is very simple. We're sinners. God has provided a way for that sin to be forgiven, and we kind of remember Easter for that. The cross work of Christ. He went to that cross, He died, He purposely shed His blood. Scripture says without the shedding of blood there's no forgiveness of sin. We can see that through the Old and New Testaments both. He shed His blood and He rose the third day, which is also very important. In Corinthians, Paul talks about the importance. Without the resurrection, your faith is in vain. So He rose, proving His words were true and that He was the Son of God. And we can be with Him for all eternity. So that gospel is important, folks. It's offered to everyone. Only some will come. Only some will believe. Only some will place their faith there. But the offer is there for you. If you're a lost person today, a person who has never said, I am a sinner, God is right, I need forgiveness of my sin, I hope you'll do that. You'll go to Him and say, based on your word, Lord, I want to come. I'm not good enough, but you said you'll accept me. I believe Jesus died on the cross. He shed His blood so my sin can be forgiven. I truly believe that. Help me to be your kind of person. Change me to be the Christian you would have me to be. God is willing to do that if you'll go to Him today. And believer, you need to bank on that. There are times we kind of have rough days, and we know we should be doing things differently. God doesn't give up on us. That faith is still intact. It's still acting. Go back, get forgiveness, and go forward, saying, Lord, I still believe you. I know my faith is secure. I still need to be transformed into your kind of person. Help me to continue doing that. And so, you've heard the idea of the prayers. I hope when we close out here, you'll go to prayer with God and take care of the business that you must. You have a great weekend. Hope to see you in church Sunday. Good night.